Furiosa was quite the treat. Out of all the films to be released in recent years, I never would have expected a Mad Max film to be the one which preached most strongly themes of motherhood and the importance of a woman's nurturing spirit. Yet, here we are. Furiosa, despite what conclusions were drawn preemptively by certain politically motivated groups online, is not nearly a feminist film, and that's the conception I aim to dismantle here in this video. Note that I use the term feminist in its uniquely modern form, defined as a movement in opposition to traditional gender roles and oftentimes a direct rejection of natural femininity. A movie could be designated a feminist film if it preached themes of supplanting women's typical role of nurturer and caretaker in society with a newly embraced identity founded on selfish power trips and grandiose notions of unrealistic physical prowess. Themes that Furiosa almost, but very intentionally does not, preach. Furiosa, much like the previous Mad Max entry, Fury Road, is a very pro-mother film, declaring in full confidence that it is the long-forgotten compassions of women which will heal a broken world. Its idea of a woman is far from a lowly killer or executioner. Furiosa does not celebrate female empowerment through violence. Just like Fury Road, George Miller argues a point that nobody else in Hollywood is arguing, that women are most empowered not as killers, but as mothers.
Each of us in our own way will vanish from this earth, and then perhaps some uncorrupted life will rise to adorn it.
What I love about Furiosa is that she is the last mother in a world which has murdered motherhood. She represents the resurgence of the nurturing spirit in spite of the cruel and hostile wasteland surrounding her. That a woman, even when thrust into the worst of circumstances, can, and should, hold onto her innermost femininity is Furiosa's underlying theme. Even as a woman is stripped of all her other identifying features, becoming less female than any other woman she's ever known, she can never truly ditch her most basic instincts for motherhood. And as the film ends, it is Furiosa's nurturing side that defines her at long last, rather than her violent one. However, Furiosa did not need to be as uplifting as it was. Surely the groundwork here was laid for something much more patronizing, a message received by many who abstained from seeing Furiosa in theaters. What trailers seemed to promise was a Mad Max film leaning uninterestingly in a female empowerment direction, in a manner perceived less graceful than Fury Road, I would presume. And with its themes of wanton male dominance, the film could have easily been just that, a Raider Queen film about female power rebelling against men, women who are done being pets. And as it stands, Furiosa is rife with ample causes to abandon femininity altogether. From the get-go, after Furiosa is abducted, Furiosa's mother, in pursuit of her captured daughter, spares one of Dementus's female bandits, who claims to be a mother too. Overtaken by sympathy, Furiosa's mother spares the bandit and takes off with Furiosa. Yet, in the seconds after being spared, the bandit runs to one of the male gunners, pointing his aim in the direction of Furiosa and her mother as they escape. What is clear then is the good graces of a sympathetic woman will, in this unforgiving wasteland, be turned against her in the blink of an eye. Furiosa's mother displays mercy, a trait arguably feminine in nature, and surely regrets it in the next moment. That feminine grace is a self-destructing tendency seems to be a passing message at the outset of Furiosa, one that the film in its entirety builds upon superficially. More than this, the film lays the foundation for the patriarchy which is eventually escaped in Fury Road, a society where women have one purpose: to birth children, without so much of a say as to whose child she carries. Naturally, a young Furiosa, traumatized at the sight of this, comes to a singular conclusion, it seems. To be a woman is to be subjugated, and thus she's better off not being a woman at all. At least, not the kind of woman this society wants. In this way, Furiosa was more than capable of being a basic megaphone for feminist talking points. that women in a traditional society are unfairly relegated to lesser roles, have their potential squashed by domineering men, should break away from those constraining molds, etc. And Furiosa does, throughout the film, attempt in her own ways to break the mold, to abandon femininity, and try masculinity on for size, a task at which she both succeeds and fails miserably.
Stop!
Furiosa is underwritten with the understanding that this is a man's world. A woman won't get her way, and should she want her way, she better make a convincing man. That Furiosa's plan to return home is only made remotely possible in her stowing away under Immortan Joe, pretending to be a boy all the while, seems proof enough that Furiosa exposes the existence of female subjugation in male-led societies. And its answer to women, it would seem, is to embolden themselves as if they were men, release themselves of the restraints that come along with a female identity. In rejecting the traditional feminine image, a woman can, at last, come close to having her way. But Furiosa, despite this surface-level theme, is ultimately shattering such an ill-formed idea. That women can be newly empowered in ways by adopting the male lifestyle, and with it, the dignity and autonomy granted to men, is a theme that never quite comes around full circle. It is, quite evidently, cut short.
If you can't do me quick, you have to do me slow. But you are never going to get anything close to what you want.
For all the distance it takes her, Furiosa's feigned masculinity, though it brings Dementus to her feet at long last, ultimately cannot give her what she wants. As intimidation failed for her in attempting to hijack the war rig, cold-blooded murder, she finds, will fail her in bringing back her mother and her childhood. There's a sharp futility in each of Furiosa's strikes on the defenseless Dementus. It becomes all too clear that she will extract nothing this way. Nothing will be returned. She can never be as she once was, even if she kills him. As it turns out, murderous masculinity does not solve all problems. Women do not find themselves emboldened in every way by merely becoming men. In fact, at the close of Furiosa, it would seem that a touch of feminine instinct is what truly brightens the future. Furiosa's newfound purpose is found not in stooping to male aggression and murderous tendency, but rather in embracing the uniquely feminine purpose of motherhood, an aim that is constructive, not destructive. Modern-day feminism, despite its calls, is actually quite disdainful of women. The notions that femininity is innately subjugating and stifling, and that a woman is most liberated as she adopts the lockstep patterns of a societal man, indirectly smites the true and unique value of a natural woman. A value that the last two Mad Max entries have celebrated like no other films in recent memory. George Miller, through Furiosa and Fury Road, tackles the problems that each sex runs into when they lean too far into their natures. Yes, admittedly, men can be far too aggressive, and women can be far too appeasing. But at their cores, neither film is rejecting the natures of these sexes altogether. Neither Fury Road nor Furiosa is a settled statement on the ills of man, and where male-led societies inevitably go wrong, Miller does not play for any one team. His arguments aren't against men and for women. He's very clearly arguing not for a matriarchy in place of patriarchy, but for a society in which men and women are understanding of one another, loving, coexistent, and harmonious. That the two genders complement each other in beautiful, godly ways is the downright message of Fury Road, and that women have something special and unique to offer separate from the masculine altogether, an offering which will balance the scales of a hellish wasteland, is the irrefutable theme of Furiosa as well. As a character, Furiosa nearly fits the bill for a boring trope. Furiosa is a woman in a unique place, traumatized unjustly by the men in her life, and empowered to do something about it. But deciding what that something is what sets George Miller apart from so many directors working in this day and age. What many assumed would be a simple revenge tale, working off of the female empowerment newly in vogue, is in actuality a deeply optimistic outlook on the future of women and mothers. Truly, Furiosa is not a character empowered by her violent streaks. Hell, Fury Road hardly granted her that satisfaction at all. All of her attempts at mimicking a violent man, like so many she's seen in her lifetime, end in absolute failure. She can't intimidate, she can't coerce, she can't even kill unflinchingly. Furiosa, even after her wretched life full of pain and sorrow, when she ought to be a woman shorn of her womanhood altogether, retains some defiant, resilient seed of femininity at her core. This femininity, which is what keeps her from becoming a basic murderer, like all the murderers she's known. And while this surely could have been at one point a femininity that she resented when it most restricted her abilities to strong-arm her way home, at the end of the film, it's a femininity that I'm sure she cherishes as her one and only solace in this world, the one unkillable instinct that grants her life renewed purpose. It's what drives her to become who she is throughout all of Fury Road, a mother of mothers.
And then?
They're looking for hope.
What about you?
Redemption.
Just as surely now as she was in Fury Road, Furiosa is a character defined by her last shreds of nurturing instinct, motherly defenses and protective urges in service to the weak and innocent. Furiosa is hardly a film that cruxes its themes on who she kills, rather, it's concluded with the culminating act of who she saves, proving further that Furiosa was never meant to be a killer any more than she was a mother. And it's a strange theme to have for a woman so deeply scorched as she. Truly, the imagery of a greasy-faced, cowl-wearing, robot-armed woman with a shaved head hardly screams mother at all. Apparently, Furiosa is an outlier, and an important one at that, seeing as how more and more people today would self-identify as such. Furiosa is a woman with nothing to lose, if she can still be called a woman at all. She's a battered and burnt mockery of a woman, belonging more to the wasteland now than she ever belonged at home. Truly, it is not required of her to take the birthing mothers under her wing, to give back to a world which took everything from her. Furiosa has every reason in the book to run off and be a hermit, a scavenger, or a bandit, merely a product of a bad world. She could just as easily claim no responsibility to the world that tortured her so, and who would blame her? Her family is gone. Her one chance at love was killed before her very eyes. Her innocence has been stripped, and, as we learn in Fury Road, her home is destroyed. Her identity is savaged beyond repair. She is not even close to the girl who she once was, and none of it is her fault. She is unequivocally a victim. Nobody would blame her if she ran away and wallowed in that. Yet, despite a life of endless horrors, the kind of life to scrub all joy from a person's soul, a life of estrangement to any group of normal, civilized people, she chooses the charitable path, light over darkness, the path that she certainly would have taken in a better life, a life she didn't have. Ultimately, Furiosa is a film that denies excuses for its titular protagonist and its audience alike. doing away with the notions that any positive path can ever be blocked to a person definitely. Scars and trauma, permanent and life-altering as they may be, are not the blockades to a fulfilling life that people make them out to be. Just because you are hurt does not mean it is too late for you. Furiosa is a vital symbol for our time because she, in spite of her scars and endless reasons to be anything but, is a carer and a mother. At its end, Furiosa's concluding message is that the life you never had is the life you can still make for someone else. Selfless purpose and service to others, often younger and more innocent than yourself, is the one truest, most dignifying pursuit that anyone with hurt and trauma can work towards. In a world where it is often preached that womanhood is dead, and that women are no longer who they once were, and will perhaps never be again, Furiosa is a so very necessary reminder of women's unique strength, the kind of instinct and power that can't be stifled or strangled or slaughtered. And no, it's not a killing kind of power. Furiosa ultimately fails at being a basic executioner. She doesn't kill Dementis, and in Fury Road, she fails at killing Max point blank with his own gun. In repeatedly having her power not legitimized, but actually minimized and denied through the act of flat-out murder, George Miller crafts the case that, in spite of whatever ideas the marketing for Furiosa put in the heads of right-wing types and the like, women are not killers. They are nurturers. They are mothers. Even the lowest of women, who can hardly call herself a woman at all, can and will be a mother. Those who refused to see Furiosa on the grounds that it was feminist missed the whole point. Furiosa does not celebrate women as empowered killers, quite the opposite. George Miller not only states that women won't be killers, but he argues in full force that they oughtn't be killers, certainly not before they are mothers. Fury Road laid this path with mastery, with some of its most touching moments brought upon by the commingling of bastardized flesh, now known as a man, and the untainted purity of a woman, unscathed by the wastes. That mothering instincts are capable of healing all wounds is Fury Road's tear-jerking destination. Fury Road drives home the crucial point that women are to be the rebuilders of society insofar as they will be the mothers of the society. Fury Road is profoundly optimistic in that it charts a path forward for a wasted world where chaos rules and numb killings are normal. And that path is found in the purity of women, the compassion of mothers.
Remember me.
Furiosa is admittedly conflicted on this theme at one point in time. The climax of the film brings about the long-awaited face-to-face with Dementis, the reason for all of Furiosa's sorrows. With the man who killed her mother, lover, and innocence down on his knees, and with a barrel to the back of his head, Furiosa builds the perfect moment of vengeance. That second of satisfaction as the bullet travels through Dementis' brain is only a trigger squeeze away. Only vengeance isn't had, and satisfaction isn't felt, at least not in the traditional sense. True to his word, seeing as how Fury Road followed a similar line of thinking, George Miller does not grant Furiosa satisfaction as an executioner. Even a savage mockery of a woman, stripped of basic beauty and scarred deeper than any skin will show, can, as Furiosa teaches the audience, be a nurturer still. If Fury Road leaned in a direction that redeemed the men fallen from grace, then Furiosa redeems the women fallen from grace. It's never too late for them. For as terrible as her life has been, and despite the multitude of reasons she has to kill Dementis outright and be justified in doing so, Furiosa does not stoop to such a level. She is not a killer before she is a mother. She plants the seed of the green place in Dementis, using his still living body as nutrients for a blossoming tree, providing ripe fruit, reclaiming the fruit which she was robbed of at the beginning of the film, when she was but a child. In this symbolic way, Furiosa comes full circle, ending as it began, with the harvesting of fruit. In wretched adulthood, Furiosa finds a way to grow fruit, the fruit she hasn't seen since adolescence, reclaiming the innocence in adulthood which she was robbed of in youth. But it's not an innocence which she hoards for herself. She instead offers it to the birthing mothers as her first step towards redemption, her first act as a woman in a long, long time. Furiosa's conclusion is not satisfying in an aggressive, feral way. She is not an accomplished and fulfilled executioner. She chooses instead to be a mother. She breaks the cycle of violence, the one which surely seemed to have worked its way on her already, breaking her down and building her up as someone new, someone worse. And yet, despite her grisly, unwomanly appearance, who she models herself after ultimately isn't Dementis, but instead a woman, much better than him and her combined. The most inspiring aspect of Furiosa is certainly how she retains a nurturing spirit and a sense of motherhood, if only a shred, as Furiosa carries with her the seed of her home, holding onto it as hope for what lush world can exist in the most chaotic hells. She carries too an inkling of compassion and caring instinct. It isn't much, but it's just enough to begin the journey with the birthing mothers, to plant them, like seeds, somewhere where they may blossom. Even if she herself may never blossom exactly as they will, Furiosa can still sponsor the process, deliver them as best she can. And it is truly in this sense that she may still, after all this time, and after all her damage, be a mother after all. As brutalizing as this world is, it cannot scald any woman beyond her mothering instincts. Take everything from them, and they have that at least. In a cultural landscape which would persuade you devilishly to believe otherwise, George Miller, through his latest masterpiece, announces far and wide that motherhood isn't dead, because it can't ever be. No woman is beyond her motherly instinct, no matter how battered or how scarred. Even the worst of wastelands are nothing in strength compared to the love and passions of a caretaker. Inside every woman is that unique and unalienable instinct to nurture, and it is with that law of the land in mind that George Miller can so boldly predict the longevity of society. That law which proclaims there will always be men as there will always be women, maybe not the most exemplary representations of their sex, but men and women nonetheless. And should a man know down to his core what it means to be a man, and a woman knows down to her core what it means to be a woman, and neither of them forget that, then truly no circumstance can destroy this world we inhabit, as it is what's built between them that lasts forever.
Max. My name is Max. That's my name.
There's a lot of mutual aggressions thrown around online from men towards women, and from women towards men. That men are violent, abusive, manipulative, take advantage of women, etc. And conversely, that women are snakes, traitors, quick to divorce, can't possibly make for good wives anymore, etc. The motley of hostilities back and forth on the matter has only grown in recent years. The sexes are uncomfortable with one another like no time in human history. Afraid of one another might even be a more accurate way of putting it. The propaganda machine, run by large institutions as well as by miserable foot soldiers looking to spread their own hate onto everybody else, has made the topic of women rather touchy to men. More so, I'd say, than the topic of men is touchy to women. I bring all this up because Furiosa, in light of the dumpster fire that is contemporary relations between the sexes, could have easily added fuel to the fire. And Fury Road could also have, for that matter. Playing one side of the fight would make for an all too easy statement, sure to be eaten up swiftly and wholly by at least one side in this sick battle. And yet, faced with an easy path, George Miller, in each of his latest Mad Max films, has consistently taken the least aggressive, least divisive, most healing approach to this increasingly touchy matter. With infinite grace and only the best of intentions to lead him, Miller is doing everything in his artistic power to mend that ever-growing gap between the sexes. Furiosa, unlike Fury Road, was a commercial flop, proving that, in the years since Fury Road, the hostilities have only grown. Adult men will refuse to see a film now on the mere grounds that a woman is the lead character. Blind hatred for the other gender has consumed a lot of disaffected men, and it's sad to see how much it prevents good, worthy art from being appreciated. Furiosa is immensely healing, yet the politics of our time ensures that the best of medicine is radicalized, labeled as something far more dubious than it really is. Furiosa is quite clear on its themes, and though I've tried my darndest here to explore its messaging, I understand that some people won't appreciate the film at all. I only hope that, through this video, George Miller's messages are amplified, and that more people hear and understand the healing messages of his films, because surely he is not trying to widen the divide in our society, but rather close it. Bring men and women together like they haven't been for so long, to paint the beauty of their complementarity, which exists immutably, even in the worst, most horrid of wastelands. And if it can exist there, then one must wonder, can't it exist here, too? Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Orion Trips. I just wanted to tap in for a minute and say thank you so much for watching the video. If you made it this far, it really means the world to me to have an audience who cares about my interpretations on film, on my insights into culture, and the art form as a whole. I really try my best to be a meaningful voice on the internet, to be something unique and insightful. I try to leave my audience maybe smarter than they came in, or at least have them thinking about things differently. And to that end, I do make the videos I make. Unfortunately, due to the nature of the YouTube copyright system, I won't be making any ad revenue on this video, which is not a big deal to me in the long run. I don't do this for the money. But that being said, it's a slight drawback to make no money from a video like this when I did spend weeks writing, recording, editing, so on and so forth. So that being said, if you did find this video insightful or meaningful, if it gave any kind of unique value to your life, please consider supporting my Patreon page at patreon.com/OrionTrips. If you support the page there, you can get early access to new videos like this. A video of this size and scope would be accessible under the $5 tier on the Patreon, but shorter videos, 15 minutes or less, you can get for early access under the $3 tier. And for the $1 tier, you can get access to articles I write. Typically, it will be film and culture related articles. If you enjoy my insights on this channel, I think you'll very much enjoy the insights within my writing on the Patreon. So that's it. If you choose to support, thank you very much. Otherwise, thank you for watching the video. Please like and subscribe, and most importantly, give me a comment. Let me know what you thought, because the comments do mean the most to me, even more than money, I would say. The comments mean a lot to me, so just let me know what you think down in the comment section. And that's about it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.